Over in the fallout of the X-Men's long-running Krakoan age of comic books, the mutant called Apocalypse has decided to ascend to the planet of Aurico. This leaves an absence over for Apocalypse on Earth that 12 individual mutants are trying to fulfill. Elsewhere, Apocalypse's own son, known as Genocide, is causing havoc over in Egypt. My name is Ariko Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and preview X-Men Heir of Apocalypse Issue 2 to see which contenders are closer to filling the absence of Apocalypse on Earth. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel. Cable, Exodus, Mirage, Wolverine, and more. Apocalypse saw great potential in 12 hand-picked mutants, but when a 13th contender crashes the tournament, endangering the lives of thousands in the process, will any survive to carry on in Apocalypse's footsteps? Not if Mr. Sinister can say anything about it. X-Men Heir of Apocalypse 2 is written by Steve Foxe, featuring artwork from Netho Diaz, with inks from J.P. Mayer and Sean Parsons, letters from Alex Sinclair, and the cover for the series is illustrated over from Dotun Okande. Really love this cover, showcasing the incredibly violent genocide wreaking havoc against all these contenders during the Succession tournament. And I want to go ahead and extend a thank you to Adventures in Poor Taste and explore the opening pages coming in from Netho Diaz over on X-Men Heir of Apocalypse 2. It was really fun to see this issue pick up so climactically over for the cliffhanger for the first installment, as the son of Apocalypse is just raging throughout the Succession tournament over for the X-Men. Watching our individual heroes respond over to these threats is so much fun over on the comic book page. I think Netho Diaz does a great job capturing the really violent nature of genocide as well. I also wanted to go ahead and highlight this panel. I think some of the exchanges over between the character of Armageddon Girl Lin Lee and Mr. Sinister highlight so many interesting aspects of these two characters. Author Steve Foxe is so great at writing these really character-focused scenes for the X-Men, and I really love the way that Mr. Sinister calls out Lin Lee as an eco-terrorist over in the issue, which is a title that she seemingly embraces over in the next panels when she takes the fight directly over to Genocide himself. One of my favorite pieces of X-Men Heir of Apocalypse is the really interesting cast of characters assembled throughout the series. Issue 2 does a phenomenal job following in the footsteps of the first issue by implementing some strong characterization for our individual heroes and then backing up and showcasing just how Apocalypse ended up recruiting some of these individuals towards the Succession tournament as well. Seeing some of Lin Lee's motivations is really interesting behind the scenes over on the comic book tale as well. Also, it was pretty thrilling to watch Steve Foxe really implement so much characterization towards Exodus. Exodus is such a strong mutant, and it was really interesting to see somebody other than Kieran Gillen really dive deep into his head and show how he's able to respond to the threat of genocide on the comic book page as well. Plus, we even get to see how Apocalypse recruited Exodus into the Succession tournament later on within the scope of the comic book page. I really find that on sequences like this page that we have up on the screen here, Netho Diaz does an excellent job capturing the really interesting and kinetic movement for so many of our X-Men characters. I wish some of the lines across this series were a little bit more slick and smooth to support so much of the strong characterization held without the series. I also have to give it over to Steve Foxe for writing the character of Penance Monet so incredibly well in this installment. I'm such a big fan of how much continuity Steve Foxe has been taking on for this series, and I love the fact that there's a clear reference to her recent relationship over with Quicksilver that's really been formed in comic books like Uncanny Avengers. At the end of the day here, I really think Marvel Comics did a really good job pacing this issue of X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. The vast majority of this sequence is simply a fight scene between our 12 mutants and the character of Genocide, but Genocide has such an obnoxious personality and packs so much power into each and every panel that it's still engrossing to read almost every individual page of this comic book tale. Also, with some of the nonlinear pacing structure and watching mutants like Apocalypse recruit our other X-Men characters, I think this issue is really interesting over from cover to cover. So at the end of the day here, I really think that X-Men Heir of Apocalypse does a phenomenal job showcasing some additional characterization over for our mutants just before the From the Ashes comic book starts over for the X-Men series. Plus, watching some of the brand new motivations of Apocalypse take place in the background of the comic book is really thrilling. Also, I'm super interested to see which elements that some of the future X-Men From the Ashes writers take over from X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. But I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts over on this comic book issue? Did you enjoy the tense fight scenes over between Genocide and our X-Men heroes? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for catching our video review over on X-Men Heir of Apocalypse, and we'll be back in the near future to see wherever the X-Men are headed next. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.